Hey everyone, it's Linton, and today we're going to continue this Harry Potter story right now. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We will finish up Chapter 1 today, and possibly do Chapter 2. I don't know, let's see. Let's start now. Just a minute. Oh, making a little mess. Oops. Just a minute. What they're saying, she pressed on, is that last night, Voldemort turned up in Godric's Hollow. He went to find the Potters. The rumor is that Lily and James Potter are that they're dead. Dumbledore bowed his head. Professor McGonagall gasped. Lily and James? I can't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. Oh, wrong person. Lily and James Potter. I can't believe it. I don't want to believe it. Oh, Albus. Dumbledore reached out and patted her on the shoulder. I know, he said heavily. Professor McGonagall's voice trembled as she went on. That's not all. They're saying he tried to kill the Potter's son, Harry. Let's turn it down a bit. I think it's a little too loud. Oh, okay, where was I? That's not all. They're saying he tried to kill the Potter's son, Harry. But he couldn't. He couldn't kill the little boy. No one knows why or how, but they're saying that when he couldn't kill Harry Potter, Voldemort's power somehow broke, and that's why he's gone. Dumbledore nodded gloomily. It's true? Faltered Professor McGonagall. After all he's done, all the people he's killed, he couldn't kill a little boy? It's just astounding. All of the things to stop him. But how in the name of heaven did Harry survive? We can only guess, said Dumbledore. We may never know. Professor McGonagall put out a lace handkerchief and dabbed at her eye beneath her spectacles. Dumbledore gave a great sniff as he took a golden watch from his pocket and examined it. It was a very odd watch. It had 12 hands but no numbers. Instead, little planets were moving around the edge. It must have made sense to Dumbledore, though, because he put it back in his pocket and said, Hagrid's late. I suppose it was he who told you I'd be here by the way? Yes, said Professor McGonagall, and I don't suppose you're going to tell me why you're here, of all places? I've come to bring Harry to his aunt and uncle. They're the only family he has left now. You can't mean the people who live here, cried Professor McGonagall, jumping to her feet and pointing at the number 4. Dumbledore, you can't. I've been watching them all day. You can't find 2 people who are less like us. And they've got this son. I saw him kicking his mother all the way up the street, screaming for sweets. Harry Potter, come and live here. It's the best place for him, said Dumbledore firmly. His aunt and uncle will be able to explain everything to him when he's older. I've written them a letter. A letter? Repeated Professor McGonagall faintly, sitting back down on the wall. Really, Dumbledore? You think you can explain all this in a letter? These people will never understand him. He'll be famous, a legend. I wouldn't be surprised if today was known as Harry Potter Day in the future. There will be books written about Harry. Every child in our world will know his name. Exactly, said Dumbledore, looking very seriously over the top of his half-moon glasses. It would be enough to turn any boy's head. Famous before he can walk and talk. Famous for something he won't even remember. Can't you see how much better off he'll be growing up, away from all that until he's ready to take it? Professor McGonagall opened her mouth, changed her mind, swallowed, and then said, Yes, you're right, of course. But how is the boy getting here, Dumbledore? She eyed his cloak suddenly as though she thought he might be hiding Harry underneath it. Hagrid's bringing him. You think it's... wise to trust Hagrid with something as important as this? I would trust Hagrid with my life, said Dumbledore. I'm not saying his heart isn't in the right place, said Professor McGonagall grudgingly. But you can't pretend he's not careless. He does tend to... What was that? A low rumbling sound had broken the silence around them. It grew steadily louder as they looked up and down the street for some sign of a headlight. It swelled to a roar as they both looked up at the sky, and a huge motorcycle fell out of the air and landed on the road in front of them. If the motorcycle was huge, it was nothing to the man sitting astride it. He was almost twice as tall as a normal man, and at least 5 times as wide. He looked simply too big to be allowed, and so wild. Long tangles of bushy black hair and beard hid most of his face. He had hands the size of trash can lids, and his feet in their leather boots were like baby dolphins. In his vast, muscular arms, he was holding a bundle of blankets. Hagrid, said Dumbledore, sounding relieved, at last. And where did you get that motorcycle? Borrowed it, Professor Dumbledore, sir, said the giant, climbing carefully off the motorcycle as he spoke. Young Sirius Black lent it to me. I've got him, sir. No problems, were there? No, sir. House was almost destroyed, but I got him out all right before the muggles started swarming around. He fell asleep as we were flying over Bristol. Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall bent forward over the bundle of blankets. Inside, just visible, was a baby boy, fast asleep. Under a tuft of jet black hair over his forehead, they could see a curiously shaped cut, like a bolt of lightning. Is that where? Whispered Professor McGonagall. Yes, said Dumbledore. He'll have that scar forever. Couldn't you do anything about it, Dumbledore? Even if I could, I wouldn't. Scars can come in handy. I have one myself above the left knee. That is a perfect map of the London Underground. Well, give him here, Hagrid. We'd better get this over with. Dumbledore took Harry in his arms and turned toward the Dursleys' house. Could I say goodbye to him, sir? Asked Hagrid. He bent his great shaggy head over Harry and gave him what must have been a very scratchy, whiskery kiss. Then suddenly, Hagrid let out a howl like a wooden dog. That wasn't in the book. Oh, dang it. Here. Yeah, that Hagrid noise. I just let out a howl. That wasn't in the book. That's just a sound I thought Hagrid might make. Come on, advertisement. Hurry up, please. Is it almost done? We're almost done with this chapter. Then I guess we can start the next chapter. This may be a pretty lengthy episode. Let me check how long. Never mind. Let's just continue. Let's turn up the volume again. Okay. Where was I? Oh, wait. Just a second. Okay, so he just gave him a whispery kiss. Then suddenly, Hagrid let out a howl like a wounded dog. Shh! Hissed Professor McGonagall. You'll like the muggles. So sorry, sobbed Hagrid, taking out a large, spotted handkerchief and buried his face in it. But I can't stand it. Lily and James dead, and poor little Harry off to live with the muggles. Yes, it's all very sad. But get a grip on yourself, Hagrid, or we'll be found. Oh, that's Professor McGonagall again. Oh, whoops. Professor McGonagall whispered, patching Hagrid gingerly on the arm as Dumbledore stepped over the low garden wall and walked to the front door. He laid Harry gently on the doorstep, took out a letter out of his cloak, tucked it inside Harry's blanket, and then came back to the other two. For a full minute, the three of them stood and looked at the little bundle. Hagrid's shoulders shook. Professor McGonagall blinked furiously, and the twinkling light that usually shone from Dumbledore's eyes seemed to have gone out. "Well," said Dumbledore finally, "that's fat. We've no business staying here. We may as well go and join the celebrations." "Yeah," said Hagrid in a very muffled voice. It'd be best to get this bike away. Good night, Professor McGonagall. Professor Dumbledore, sir." Wiping his streaming eyes on his jacket sleeve, Hagrid swung himself onto the motorcycle and kicked the engine into life. With a roar, it rose into the air and off into the night. I shall see you soon, I expect, Professor McGonagall," said Dumbledore, nodding to her. Professor McGonagall blew her nose in reply. Dumbledore turned and walked back down the street. On the corner, he stopped and took out the silver put-outer. He clicked it once, and the 12 balls of light sped back to their street lamps, so that Private Drive glowed suddenly orange, and he could make out a tabby cat slinking around the corner at the other end of the street. He could just see the bundle of blankets on the step of number 4. "Good luck, Harry," he murmured. He turned on his heel. With a swish of his cloak, he was gone. A breeze ruffled the neat hedges of Private Drive, which lay silent and tidy under the inky sky. The very last piece you would expect astonishing things to happen. Harry Potter rolled over aside his blankets without waking up. One small hand closed on the letter beside him, and he slept on, not knowing he was special, not knowing he was famous, not knowing he would be woken in a few hours' time by Mrs. Dursley's scream as she opened the front door to put out the milk bottles, nor that he would spend the next few weeks being prodded and pinched by his cousin Dudley. He couldn't know that at this very moment, people meeting in secret all over the country were holding up their glasses and saying in hushed voices, "To Harry Potter, the boy who lived." That's the end of chapter 1. Whoa. Here, I'm gonna take a minute. Just a moment. Oh wait. I'm gonna take a break for a moment. Okay, I just had to take a break for a moment. Oh, just a second. Maybe I should add like music. Okay. There we go. Sorry for it to hold up. Had to get a drink because you know, how long I've been reading. Okay, chapter 2. The Vanishing Glass. Nearly 10 years ago had passed since the Dursleys had woken up to find their nephew on the front step, but Private Drive had hardly changed at all. The sun rose on the same tidy front gardens and lit up the brass number 4 on the Dursleys' front door. It crept into their living room, which was almost exactly the same as it had been on the night when Mr. Dursley had seen that fateful news report about the owls. Only the photographs on the mantelpiece really showed how much time has passed. 10 years ago, there had been lots of pictures of what looked like a large pink beach ball wearing different colored bonnets. But Dudley Dursley was no longer a baby, and now the photograph showed a large blonde boy riding his first bicycle on a carousel at the fair, playing a computer game with his father, being hugged and kissed by his mother. The room held no sign at all that another boy lived in the house too. This is pretty good music. As a Companion, yeah, that's a good one. Yet Harry Potter was still there, asleep at the moment, but not for long. His Aunt Petunia was awake, and it was her shrill voice that made the first noise of the day. "Up! Get up! No!" Harry woke with a start. His aunt rapped on the door again. "Up!" she screeched. Harry heard her walking toward the kitchen, and then the sound of a frying pan being put on the stove. He rolled onto his back and tried to remember the dream he had been having. It had been a good one. There had been a flying motorcycle in it. He had a funny feeling he'd had that same dream before. His aunt was back outside the door. "Are you up yet?" she demanded. "Nearly," said Harry. "Well, get a move on. I want you to look after the bacon. And don't you dare let it burn. I want everything to be perfect on Dudley's perfect." Harry groaned. Ugh. "What did you say?" Oh, wait, wrong thing. "What did you say?" His aunt snapped through the door. Nothing. Dudley's birthday. How could he have forgotten? Harry got slowly out of bed and started looking for socks. He found a pair under his bed after pulling a spider off one of them. Put them on. Harry was used to spiders because the cupboard under the stairs was full of them, and that was where he slept. When he was dressed, he went down the hall into the kitchen. The table was almost hidden beneath all Dudley's birthday presents. It looked as though Dudley had gotten the new computer he wanted, not to mention the second television and that racing bike. Exactly why Dudley wanted a racing bike was a mystery to Harry, as Dudley was very fat and hated exercise, unless of course it involved punching somebody. Dudley's favorite punching bag was Harry, but he couldn't catch him often. Harry didn't look it, but he was very fast. Perhaps it had been something to do with living in a dark cupboard, but Harry had always been small and skinny for his age. He looked even smaller and skinnier than he really was before, because all he had to wear were old clothes of Dudley's, and Dudley's was 4 times bigger than he was. Harry had a thin face, knobbly knees, black hair, and bright green eyes. He wore round glasses held together with a lot of scotch tape because of all the times Dudley had punched him on the nose. The only thing Harry liked about his own appearance was a very thin scar on his forehead. That was shaped like a lightning bolt. He had it as long as he could ever remember. And the first questions he could ever remember asking his Aunt Petunia was how he had gotten it. In the car crash when your parents died," she had said. "And don't ask questions." Don't ask questions. That was the first rule for a quiet life with the Dursleys. "Comb your hair," he barked. Uncle Vermont this time. Uncle Vermont entered the kitchen as Harry was turning over the bacon. "Comb your hair," he barked. By the way of a morning greeting, about once a week, Uncle Vermont looked over the top of his newspaper and shouted that Harry needed a haircut. Harry must have had more haircuts than the rest of the boys in the class put together, but it made no difference. His hair simply grew that way, all over the place. Harry was frying eggs by the time Dudley arrived in the kitchen with his mother. Dudley looked a lot like Uncle Vermont. He had a large pink face, not much neck, small watery blue eyes, and thick blonde hair that lay smoothly on his thick fat head. Aunt Petunia often said that Dudley looked like a baby angel. Harry often said that Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. Yeah, that might be right, actually. Harry put the plates of eggs and bacons on the table, which was difficult as there wasn't much room. Dudley, meanwhile, was counting his presents. His face fell. 36, he said, looking up at his mother and father. "That's 2 less than last year." "Darling, you haven't counted Aunt March's presents, see? It's right here under this one from Mommy and Daddy." "All right, 37 then," said Dudley, going red in his face. Harry, who could see a huge Dudley tantrum coming on, began wolfing down his bacon as fast as possible in case Dudley turned the table over. Aunt Petunia obviously scented danger, too, because she said quickly, "Okay, Aunt, we'll buy you another 2 presents while we're out today. How's that, Popkin? 2 more presents. Is that all right?" Dudley thought for a moment. It looked like hard work. Finally, he said slowly, "So I'll have 39 sweet gums." said Aunt Petunia. Oh. Dudley sat down heavily and grabbed the nearest parcel. All right, then. Uncle Vermont chuckled. Ha! Little Tyke wants his money's worth, just like his father. Attaboy, Dudley. He ruffled Dudley's hair. At the moment, the telephone rang and Aunt Petunia went down to answer it while Harry and Uncle Vermont watched Dudley unwrap the racing bike, a video camera, a remote control airplane, 16 new computer games, and a VCR. What song is this? The heck? Let's skip this one. The Hobbit. Well, this is great music. Let's listen to this one anyways. I love the Hobbit music. It's so beautiful. He was ripping the paper off a gold wristwatch when Aunt Petunia came back from the telephone looking angry and worried. Bad news, Uncle Vermont. Bad news, Vermont, she said. Mrs. Fig broken her leg again. She can't take him. She jerked her head in Harry's direction. Dudley's mouth fell open in horror, but Dudley's heart gave a leap. Every year on Dudley's birthday, his parents took him and his friend out for a day to adventure parks, hamburger restaurants, or the movies. Every year, Harry was left behind with Mrs. Fig, a mad old lady who lived 2 streets away. Harry hated it there. The whole house smelled of cabbage, and Mrs. Fig made him look at photographs of all the cats she's ever owned. Must be a lot. Now what? Said Aunt Petunia, looking furiously at Harry, though he'd planned this. Harry knew he ought to feel sorry that Mrs. Fig had broken her leg, but it wasn't easy when he reminded himself it would be a whole year before he had to look at Tibbles, Snowy, Mr. Paws, and Tufty again. We could phone Marge, and Uncle Vermont suggested. Don't be silly, Vermont. She hates the boy. The Dursleys often spoke about Harry like this, as though he wasn't there, or rather, as though he was something very nasty that couldn't understand them, like a slug. Poor Harry. What's her name? Your friend! Wait. What's her name? Your friend? Yvonne? On vacation in Majorca. Marhoka. Mahorca? I don't know. I think it's someplace in South America. You could just leave me here, Harry said. Harry put in hopefully. He'd be able to watch what he wanted on television for a change, and maybe even have a go on Dudley's computer. Aunt Petunia looked as though she'd just swallowed a lemon. And to come back and find the house in ruins? She snarled. I won't blow up the house, said Harry, but they weren't listening. I suppose we can take him to the zoo, said Aunt Petunia slowly, and leave him in the car. The car's new. He's not sitting in the car alone. And Dudley began to cry loudly. Bah! In fact, he wasn't really crying. It had been years since he'd really cried. But he knew that if he screwed up his face and wailed, his mother would give him anything he wanted. Dinky Diddle comes! Don't cry, Mommy won't let him spoil your special day, she cried, flinging her arms around him. I don't want him to come, Dudley yelled between huge pretend sobs. He always spoils everything. That doesn't sound like crying. He shot Harry a nasty grin, though the gap in his mother's arm. Just then, the doorbell rang. Oh, good Lord, they're here, said Aunt Petunia frantically, and a moment later, Dudley's best friend, Piers Polkiss, walked in with his mother. Piers was a scrawny boy with a face like a rat. He was usually the one who held people's arms behind their backs while Dudley hit them. Dudley stopped pretending to cry at once. Half an hour later, Harry, who couldn't believe his luck, was sitting in the back of the Dursley's car with Piers and Dudley, on the way to the zoo for the first time in his life. His aunt and uncle hadn't been able to think of anything else to do with him. But before they'd left, Uncle Vermont had taken Harry aside. I'm warning you, he had said, putting his large purple face right up to Harry's. I'm warning you now, boy. Any funny business? Anything at all? And you'll be in that cupboard from now until Christmas. I'm not going to do anything, said Harry, honestly. Uncle Vermont didn't believe him. No one ever did, sadly. Poor Harry, no one ever believes him. The problem was, strange things often happened around Harry, and it was just no good telling the Dursleys he didn't make them happen. Once, Aunt Petunia, tired of Harry coming back from the barber's, looking as though he hadn't been at all. Really? Okay, just a minute. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna get some lemonade. Well, that is still here. An ad. Okay. Looks like this. Oh no, this song. Skip it. No. Alice in Wonderland. No. Treasure Planet. Sherlock Holmes. Okay, fine. Let's listen to Sherlock Holmes. Or can we listen to Harry Potter? Okay, this is close. Chronicles of Narnia. Let's just do that. Okay, let's continue. Okay. Once Aunt Petunia, tired of Harry coming back from the barber's looking as though he hadn't been at all, had taken a pair of kitchen scissors and cut his hair so short he was almost bald except for his bangs, which she'd left to hide that horrible scar, she quoted. Whoops. That was my book. Dudley had laughed himself silly at Harry, who spent a sleepless night imagining school the next day, where he was already laughed at for his baggy clothes. I thought that was Chronicles. Well, I mean, that is. I thought that was Pirates of the Caribbean. Laughed at for his baggy clothes and taped glasses. Next morning, however, he had gotten up to find his hair exactly as it had been before Aunt Petunia had sheared it off. He had been given a week in his cupboard for this, even though he had tried to explain that he couldn't explain how it had grown back so quickly. How strange. Another time, Aunt Petunia had been trying to force him into a revolving old sweater of Dudley's, brown with orange buff balls. The harder she tried to pull it over his head, the smaller it seemed to become, until finally it might have fitted a hand puppet, but certainly wouldn't fit Harry. Aunt Petunia had decided it must have shrunk in the wash, and, to his great relief, Harry wasn't punished. On the other hand, he'd gotten into really terrible trouble for being found on the roof of the school kitchens. Dudley's gang had been chasing him as usual when, as much to Harry's surprise as anyone else's, there he was sitting on the chimney. The Dursleys had received a very angry letter from Harry's headmistress telling them Harry had been climbing on school buildings. But all he tried to do, as he shouted at Uncle Vermont through the locked door of his cupboard, was jump behind the big trash cans outside the school kitchen doors. Harry supposed that the wind must have caught him in mid-jump. But today nothing was going to go wrong. It was even worth being with Dudley and Piers to be spending the day somewhere that wasn't school, his cupboard, or Mrs. Fig's cabbage-smelling living room. While he drove, Uncle Vermont complained to Aunt Petunia. He'd like to complain about things. People at work, Harry, the council, Harry, the bank, and Harry were just a few of his favorite subjects. This morning, it was motorcycles. Roaring along like maniacs, the young hoodlums, he said, as a motorcycle overtook them. I had a dream about a motorcycle, said Harry, remembering suddenly. It was flying. Uncle Vermont nearly crashed it into the car in front. He turned right around in his seat and yelled at Harry, his face like a gigantic beet with a mustache. Motorcycles don't fly! Dudley and Pierce snickered. I know they don't, said Harry. It was only a dream. But he wished he hadn't said anything. If there was one thing the Dursleys hated even more than his asking questions, it was his talking about anything, acting in a way it shouldn't, no matter if it was in a dream or even a cartoon. They seemed to think he might get dangerous ideas. It was a very sunny Saturday and the zoo was crowded with families. The Dursleys bought Dudley and Pierce large chocolate ice creams at the entrance, and then, because a smiling lady in the van had asked Harry what he had wanted before they could hurry him away, they bought him a cheap lemon ice pop. It wasn't bad either, Harry thought, licking it as they watched a gorilla scratching its head, who looked remarkably like Dudley, except that it wasn't blonde. Wow. Let me check how many more pages. A few more. It might be a long episode. Harry had the best morning he'd had in a long time. He was careful to walk a little way apart from the Dursleys so that Dudley and Pierce, who were starting to get bored with the animals by lunchtime, wouldn't fall back on their favorite hobby of hitching him. They ate in the zoo restaurant, and when Dudley had a tantrum because his Knickerbocker glory didn't have enough ice cream on top, Uncle Vermont bought him another one, and Harry was allowed to finish the first. Wow, you're pretty lucky. Harry felt, afterward, that he should have known it was all too good to last. After lunch, they went to the reptile house. It was cool and dark in there, with lit windows all along the walls. Behind the glass, all sorts of lizards and snakes were crawling and slithering over bits of wood and stone. Dudley and Pierce wanted to see huge, poisonous cobras and thick, man-crushing pythons. Dudley quickly found the largest snake in the place. It could have wrapped his body twice around Uncle Vermont's car and crushed it into a trash can, but at the moment, it didn't look in the mood. In fact, it was fast asleep. Dudley stood with his nose pressed against the glass, staring at the glistening brown coils. Make it move, he whined at his father. Uncle Vermont tapped on the glass, but the snake didn't budge. Do it again, Dudley ordered. Uncle Vermont rapped the glass smartly with his knuckles, but the snake just snoozed on. This is boring, Dudley moaned. He shuffled away. Harry moved in front of the tank and looked intentionally at the snake. He wouldn't have been surprised if it had died of boredom itself. No company except stupid people drumming their fingers on the glass, trying to disturb it all day. It was worse than having a cupboard as a bedroom, where the only visitor was Aunt Petunia hammering on the door to wake you up. At least he got to visit the rest of the house. The snake opened its beady eyes. Slowly, very slowly, it raised its head until its eyes were on a level with Harry's. It winked. Harry stared. Then he looked quickly around to see if anyone was watching. They weren't. He looked back at the snake and winked too. The snake jerked its head toward Uncle Vermont and Dudley, then raised its eyes to the ceiling. It gave Harry a look that said quite plainly, I get this all the time. I know, Harry murmured through the glass. Though he wasn't sure the snake could hear him. It must be very annoying. The snake nodded vigorously. Where did you come from, anyway? Harry asked. The snake jabbed its tail at a little sign next to the glass. Harry peered at it. Boa constrictor, Brazil. Was it nice there? The boa constrictor jabbed its tail at the sign again, and Harry read on. This specimen was bred in the zoo. Oh, I see. So you've never been to Brazil? As the snake shook his head, a deafening shout behind Harry made both of them jump. Dudley! Oh, who was this? Oh, wait. Dudley, Mr. Dursley, come and look at the snake. You won't believe what it's doing. I think that was Piers. Dudley came waddling toward them as fast as he could. Out of the way, you, he said, punching Harry in the ribs. Caught by surprise, Harry fell hard on the concrete floor. What came next so fast no one saw how it happened. No, 1 second, Piers and Dudley were leaning right up close to the glass. The next, they had leapt back with howls of horror. Harry sat up and gasped. The glass front of a boa constrictor's tank had vanished. The great snake was uncoiling itself rapidly, slithering out onto the floor. People throughout the reptile house screamed and started running for the exit. As the snake slid swiftly past them, Harry could have sworn a low, hissing voice said, "Brazil, here I come. Thanks, amigo." The keeper of the reptile house was in shock. "But the glass," he kept saying. "Where did the glass go?" The zoo director himself made Aunt Petunia a strong cup of tea while he apologized over and over again. Piers and Dudley could only gibber. As though, as Harry had seen, the snake hadn't done anything except snap playfully at their heels as it passed. But by the time they were all back in Uncle Vermon's car, Dudley was telling them how it had nearly bitten off his leg, while Piers was swearing it tried to squeeze him to death. But worst of all, for Harry at least, was Piers calming down everyone to say, "Harry was talking to it, weren't you, Harry?" Uncle Vermon waited until Piers was safely out of the house before starting on Harry. He was so angry he could hardly speak. He managed to say, "Go, cupboard, stay, no meals," before he collapsed into a chair, and Aunt Petunia had to run and get him a large brandy. Harry lay in the dark cupboard much later, wishing he had a watch. He didn't know what time it was, and he couldn't be sure the Dursleys were asleep yet. Until they were, he couldn't risk sneaking to the kitchen for some food. He lived with the Dursleys for almost 10 years. 10 miserable years, as long as he could remember. Ever since he'd been a baby and his parents died in that car crash. He couldn't remember being in the car when his parents had died. Sometimes when he strained his memory during long hours in the cupboard, he came up with a strange vision. A blinding flash of green light and a burning pain on his forehead. This, he supposed, was the crash, though he couldn't imagine where all the green light came from. Final page. Couldn't remember his parents at all. His Aunt Petunia and uncle never spoke about them. And of course, he was forbidden to ask questions. There were no photographs of them in the house. When he had been younger, Harry had dreamed and dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take him away, but it had never happened. The Dursleys were his only family, yet sometimes he thought, or maybe hoped, that strangers in the street seemed to know him. Very strange strangers they were, too. A tiny man in a violet top hat had bowed to him once, while out shopping with Aunt Petunia and Dudley. After asking Harry furiously if he knew the man, Aunt Petunia had rushed them out of a shop without buying anything. A wild-looking old woman dressed in all green had waved merrily at him once at a bus. A bald man in a very long purple coat had actually shaken his hand in the street the other day, and then walked without another word. The weirdest thing about all of these people was that the way they seemed to vanish the second Harry tried to get a closer look. At school, Harry had no one. Everybody knew that Dudley's gang hated that odd Harry Potter in his baggy old clothes and broken glasses, and nobody liked to disagree with Dudley's gang. That is the end of the chapter. Wow, that took 40 minutes. Wow. This was a great episode. We'll continue with episode 3. Maybe today. I have a lot of time, so maybe we can go with chapter 3. I don't know. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye. Wait, first, let's get rid of this. Goodbye, everyone.